Greetings, internets. It's me, Andy. Today, we're going to talk about songwriting in really short, monotone bursts of speech for some odd reason. That's like, what's his face, man? Dr. Spot. Or, man, Shatner. So, what's up, man? We're going to talk about some songwriting today. We are in the studio, and it's about to go down. I was just now hitting one of my favorite buttons, man. Volume for iTunes is not like a paid plug. This is a tip. A lot of my videos, you're going to catch a little tip here and there because I've been doing this stuff a long time. Some years back on Mac, man, they screwed up the volume buttons between this keyboard controller and iTunes, and it didn't work. You can get it back for free. Nice little app called Volume for iTunes. And there's your volume buttons back. Woo! So, songwriting. I bet there's a lot of videos on YouTube that have great discussions about songwriting, songwriting theory, and all kinds of stuff that I'm not at all qualified to talk about. I'm probably not qualified to talk about any of this stuff, but I do it all the time, and I've been doing it for so long. Maybe some of what I've gleaned over the years will be helpful to you. Let's find out. So songwriting, I'm going to talk about this particular record. This is part 2 of this series that I'm doing, How to Make a Record at Home. And it's basically, we're now in, this is obviously a studio, but it's right next to my home. And this record was made in my home in one of the bedrooms. And so this is a unique project for me in that I don't usually write entire, like this is a concept record. This record is all about one thing. It's called This House. It's about stuff in your house. And I'll get to why it's that way in a minute. But I write, I've written a lot of music over the years and all kinds of music. And I usually just write, because there's an itch needing to be scratched. And what comes out, comes out. And it's hard to group stuff even into albums. And if you look me up on Bandcamp and iTunes and stuff, you'll find me in a couple of records there, a handful of records that some of them were hard to put together, kind of, because it's like, well, I don't know what songs to put together here. I mean, it's the grouping really of here's the most recent songs, kind of, and pick the ones that seem to maybe fit together on a record, but I'm getting off the point. With this one, it was absolutely I made the choice to come right at it with a full concept. So, and the reason for that is because I wanted people to actually consume this media. As an artist, you have this insatiable desire to share your stuff. Generally, some people, everybody's different. It's all subjective. But this artist and a lot of artists that I know, we just, we overshare our stuff. It's like you have this wonderful time of creating your piece of work, and then there's also the sharing of the piece of work. It's sometimes equally as fun for a lot of people. And in this day and age, 2019, there's so many people sharing their art. There's just so much to be consumed. It's really hard to get your art consumed. And so I've been at the forefront of non-consumption for years now, and I'm not really a good self-promoter. I'm just now getting around to doing active stuff on my YouTube channel, all these years after having it. I've been a professional creative and worked with a lot of national brands and done a lot of cool things over the years. And I don't know, I'm just not a self-promoter in that respect. It's fun. It's my work. It's what I do. I love it. And now it seems there's, you can share that, and it's of use. And anyways, this record is all about, this house, things that are around the house that I kind of think maybe, okay, here's an angle. Maybe everybody's got a house or a place that they live, rather. Most people have a dwelling. If you're going to consume this music, you're probably doing some on some type of electronic device, which would lead me to believe that you do have a dwelling of some sort. And so around that dwelling, there's going to be some things in common. So we chose a house, and your most typical suburban American, I don't know, suburban, whatever existence, and a household living, as it were. And I that's where it all came from. And also, I kind of had the caveat of I wanted to write short songs, like 2 minutes or less. There's no reason, because like I said, I want this to be consumed. I've got years and years of, you put all kinds of stuff out here and there. And like I said, there's so many people putting stuff out, like the fact that I can come into my studio and sit down and 2 or 3 hours later have, and with nothing. And then a couple hours later come out with, a whole song that's like 2 minutes long and has live drums and live instruments and vocals and all that stuff. Wrote it, played it, recorded, done the whole thing. It's like, okay, dude, what do you want? A medal? I can do that on my phone, bro. What do you want? So that's the world we live in. And so I was just thinking, okay, let's just approach this record differently. It's not just an artistic, my stupid need to scratch this thing. It's not stupid, but my incessant, it's always there, my need to scratch this musical itch, or you look at it from the point of the consumer. So this was kind of more of from consumer driven, for sure, for me. And I should note that it didn't really matter. That's been out for this record's been out for a year. It's been consumed very little. I'm like I said, a freelance creative. I've been doing this web stuff for years. Everything that I put out, I'm well aware of how much play it gets and stuff. None of this stuff gets played ever. So the things that are in your house is how we kind of got to where we are with this kind of thing. I thought that'd be a good idea. So how do you start writing songs about the things in your house? Well, for me, I basically I had ideas, like walking around the house late at night or whatever. It might pop in my head like, oh, so I was walking through the bedroom one night and looked at the bed and was like, oh yeah, like or maybe I don't even remember how I got on it actually. I know there was a moment where I was in the bedroom kind of writing and scratching my armpit about stuff like that. So anyways, there's the first song, Act of Congress is what it's called, and it's about fitted sheets, right? And the fact that I cannot seem to fold a fitted sheet, like my wife's great at it. Your significant other, friend, pal, partner might also be great at it, and you just can't figure that out like me. And that's what that song's about. It's kind of funny, whatever. And I tried to think of things as I went through and kind of, and I did have a handful of song ideas before I kind of really got into this. 3 or 4 probably, I think, before I dove in. But the idea was to, find those things with commonalities that everybody might have around their house and write a song about them that's relatable, might be a little bit funny, a little bit quirky, whatever. It's got to have something to it to draw somebody in, maybe make them laugh. Like, yeah, I know what he's talking about. That's kind of funny, whatever. And then maybe this art will be consumed, and as stated, we're at the, I guess we're only a year into this art being alive, but it's not a lot of consumption happening. And so that's how the songs shape up. And so the group of songs, we've got the song about the bed sheets, and we've got This House, which is, you could say, a title track, which is more or less just a song about, me. And I'll go through these in a little more detail in a minute. But it's more or less a song about me just, talking about the stuff that I love about my house that kind of makes it a home and a special place to me. Oh, that's sweet. And so from there, we have Microwave. We have Walk Through Me, which is about being a door. We have Wrong Way, which is about all the different things that I can't plug in the right way around the house, plug USB things, charge, whatever. We got Blanket, that best friend you have that keeps you warm at night, Blanket. Then we have Your Room, your sanctuary spot. We got Cheese Grater. Cheese Grater, that's a good one. Two Switches is about a light switch that exists twice for one light. One of them's always wrong. Bugs me to death. Then we got Superfan, The Little Things, and Out the Window to round it out. Superfan obviously is about a fan. Little Things is about, not being bogged down by little things in the world. And it's kind of abstract for this album, if you think about it. But it's a cool song. Then we have Out the Window, which is the last one, and it's just about the stuff that you might see out your window. And that's the kind of the overview look of this house situation. And so let's talk about the actual songs in the This House record. So the actual songs, as I just went through, so like strong song structure, we can just start like right with the number one. So like I said, there's going to be a lot of videos, I'm sure, on YouTube that can tell you all about all the proper fundamentals of strong song structure and all that kind of stuff. I am not the guy for the proper anything. I have a lot of friends. They're great at the proper everything. And I move too fast. Here's a good example. This is the third time I've shot this particular video, because the first one, the audio was horrid. The second one, the framing was totally wrong, and I cut off half the top of my head. And so this third one, we're going to hope is money. But that's my existence often. I'm a high output creative. I'm always doing something and spitting something out. And sometimes I move a little too fast. But so while I say I'm not the expert like that in that sense, again, I have been doing this stuff a long time, and I have a lot of solid content, music-wise, out there to back up my claims, as it were. I don't want to fight, man. Back off. So these songs adhere, for the most part, and most of what I write does adhere to like the general accepted songwriting structure for popular music, which you might say would go like verse, chorus, then maybe a bridge or whatever, a closing chorus, and that's a general structure from start to finish. And if you want to get really crazy, you can start to augment that structure. You might have an intro, then your first verse, and then a pre-chorus, and then chorus, and the post-chorus, some sort of mid-song interlude before the second verse, and then your pre-chorus to the second chorus, and that chorus, and then a pre-bridge, and then, whatever. You can really modify. But that structure, I find to be good. I think it lends itself to dynamics and an overall dynamic swing to a production, to a piece of music. And you'll notice, just think about how all the music that you love, the music that there's verses and chorus. There's usually a distinction between these two things. Like the verses sometimes quiet, and here comes the chorus, wham, it hits you over the head, because it's the big hook and we're all excited. Or it's just, goes from the dynamics the same, but the lyrical content completely changes and really takes off and hooks you in the chorus, whatever. So my stuff generally adheres to a lot of this stuff. And so if Act of Congress is the first one, and there is a video I've already done, it's lesson 1, it gives an overview of the recording process for this record. Check it out. And it also breaks down the song part by part, kind of, and shows you a look into the recording and track by track stuff. So have a look at that stuff, man. There's going to be a lot more of those coming out. This is just part 2. I'll do a whole pile of them. So subscribe if you don't want to miss, and you won't. And Act of Congress, the writing part of it, though, it starts out, what is the first words? Like, one of these things is not like the other. One of these things is not like the other. It takes an act of Congress. So there we have a good example. We've got two mechanisms. You could say I'm cheating right out of the gate, man, and just using writing tricks, right? But are there tricks? Isn't this just all subjective? Isn't it art? Did you see where this dude recently taped a banana to a wall? Everybody's freaking out about it. Some people think it's art, some people don't. You be the judge. It's art. It's subjective. One of these things is not like the other. It's one of those phrases that exists in culture. that we're all familiar with. So you instantly, you've instantly got a hook into someone's attention, I guess you could say. And it takes an act of Congress, and people sort of know that to mean that this is difficulty. This task is hard, harder than average. This is not your usual thing we're trying to do right here, and it takes an act of Congress. This thing just fold like the other. I don't. Yeah, so that's what we're talking about. Folding sheets, man. One of them is foldable. One of them is not foldable. What's up? I don't understand. And I go into this section where, and here comes, like more of the tongue-in-cheeky humor bit of the lyrical writing in this song, where I'm like, so yo, if I'm being honest, I understand I might not should be bitching about my sheets, because there's probably like a whole crew of like really, really smart, experienced sheet guys and girls that are like, really up on all the sheet science, and they know they've been studying and learning for years on how to get their sheets, on the bed, stay on the bed, sleep, and all that stuff. So who am I to like discount all of those sleep scientists and their sheet scientists is what they are, sheet scientists. Who am I to discount a sheet scientist who's dedicated his life to the performance of sheets and sleeping? So I shan't do it. I shan't. And that's what this little part's about. So, I mean, that's ridiculous. Whatever. Yeah, I mean, it's all just silly and ridiculous. Getting sheets to stay in place, undermining years of technological improvement and all this stuff. Man, it's taking sheets really seriously, and maybe that's the funny part of this song. I don't know. The second verse breaks down just the fact that the fitted sheet's a little bit fancy and what's going on there. It's a frilly thing. That one's like cool, straight lace. It's just flat out, boom. But this guy over here, he's like, I don't know what that's about either. So next up, we have this house, where around this house there are good things and bad. There are things to make you laugh. That was a nice little triangle. Ding. That's actually a glockenspiel. So that's this house title track, where in this house there are good things and bad, which kind of sets up the record. We're telling you what you're about to get into right here. We could have opened the record with this song, but it wasn't the first written, and sometimes I kind of like stuff like that. Put the first written right up front, and the rest is up for grabs. But so, anyways, it ends up in the number 2 slot. That's how it went, and sets it up for you. We got good things and bad things. There's things that's gonna make you glad, things that'll make you sad. We're rhyming like a chump up in there. So I kind of just talking, here's what I like about my house. It's good, people, the stuff I love is in there, my wife, my dogs and stuff, and blah, blah, blah. It's your house. And so the music's kind of like roundabouty, interesting. They might be gianty a little bit. They've been, of course, a huge influence on me, as have been a lot of people. They have been to a lot of people. And that's this house. Next up is So I'll already overviewed the things, but next up is Microwave. Microwave is one of those, it was kind of easy to be, I knew right away when I thought about I was going to do this record. I knew right away Microwave would be a one that I wanted to tackle. Because I am of an age 45 right now. I was born in 1974. And I remember like microwaves that you couldn't figure out at all. Hell, there's one at a shelter that I volunteer at where this old microwave sits there. Nobody could work this thing, right? And but every once in a while you come by, man, somebody's got some mac and cheese up in there. Boop, running. And you're like, what is up? Who started the microwave? Anybody know? Nobody knows who started the microwave. Still can't figure out the mystery. I can't cook anything in this microwave. And I'm a relatively smart individual. I'm doing all this technology stuff for a very long time, programmer, everything else. I can't cook anything in that microwave. I don't know. I can't get it to work. So that's the funny thing about microwaves, some things, and that's how we open up, with this kind of like just you get deep into it, get into character because I'm frustrated and I'm upset because I have some food. It's not quite warm enough, and I want it to be just a little warmer. It doesn't seem like a big ask. A toaster oven could pull this guy off just like that without even thinking about it. You know what I'm saying? Just a little warmer. And so how many buttons do I have to press though to make that happen? Because it seems I'm pressing way too many buttons here, and that's microwave. And so we've got this little synthy technology thing going on, and then we're just gonna plead. Do I need to press if I want my food just a little warmer? How many times will I have to press cancel? Because that's the moment when you're like this. That's the front. If you've ever been, I'm like assuming people have been frustrated with the microwave, but there's that moment you finally just gotta give up, man. You're just like, screw it. Okay, fine, cancel. We'll start over. We're gonna start this whole process over again. Thought I had it right. We have one power level thing, start nothing, and start nothing, and eventually you're just like, too lost, cancel, we're starting over. Never mind. It's silly. It's nonsense, but that's what the record's supposed to be. So this one, we really just run like a verse after a verse, and I don't even remember where this one goes. So this is like this long form chorusy thing that happens on the whole like second 2/3 or second third of the song. Last third. The third of a song if you split it into three as I look at that timeline there. And then we wrap it up though, kind of with this hooky thing. And that little thing, there's always, that's a great little mechanism that you'll see a lot of good songwriters will use. And good is subjective. I realize that. I don't know what I'm talking about. It's just a guy. But I like interesting music where things bounce around, step around, do things to keep my brain interested. It's not just the same old changes and stuff. And that's one of those things when you're going from one chord to another. Sometimes you don't have to just go chord to chord. You can go, and you can step up to it or step down from it, stuff like that. It makes things interesting. That's microwave. Next is Walk Through Me. I wish I was a door. Ceiling to the floor. I wish I were a door. I could be serious or I could be frightening. Yep. So this is all about that door thing. And the funny part, we kind of, where I'm pulling the funny out of the door thing is how do you write a song about a door? And it's like, well, maybe just me longing to be a door would be cool. Think about the history of the door. The door has been a pretty dramatic part. Like castle doors, man, and all the things that have been protected behind doors. Dude, doors are serious, man. But what does the door think about all this? What about from the perspective of the door? Like, sure, the door's proud, he's a proud door, the history of doors. Like, sure, man. I mean, my ancestors, were great doors on castles. And I had this great grand door from the Great Wall of China. I don't know. But like doors, and there's door history, and so we're serious about it. But like maybe he's like, dude, that's all cool, but like, man, I'm a minimalist, I'm a purist, I'm old school door. I just want people to just open me up, man, and walk through me. That's what I do best, is just come on through. Walk through me. And that's walk through me.
I could protect you from a hurricane.
Yeah, man. I'll look out for you. I'll protect you. I'll do all these things. But what I'll do best, what I'll do very best, is I will open and you will walk through me.
Won't you please walk through me? Oh, I want it to be nothing more.
So yeah, nothing more than a door, and it's serious. You should know this is not just decor. This is a door. So that's walk through me, and it's probably time to clop this, and brings us right up to Wrong Way. What a good one, Wrong Way. So Wrong Way is that song about all the things that I can't do right. I mean, if I'm ever presented with a 50-50 opportunity to do something right or wrong, I choose wrong every single time, it seems, without fail. It's uncanny. And so that song is about USB plugs, regular plugs, whatever. It's a good rock song. Won't get into it too deep. Blanket is next up after that. It's not a rock song. Maybe it is. I don't remember. I know it starts off song soft. It's all about your blanket, your best friend.
Every day I have starts with you, and every night I see ends with you.
And this one started with the part that it's about to go into. It just kind of bounces between two sections for a little while. But this part this is where the song came from. Wrote this first.
Just right. Lock out the light there when I need you.
It's just like a raw, like ballad to my blanket. Like, dude, I love you, blanket. Like, you wrap me tight, you hold me all night. Man, you're my blanket.
My blanket. Artists take time to build their craft.
And so, and more goofiness probably in the second verse. And then I remember it rounds out with me just, like coming out from that blanket and like pulling off couch cushions and like making a fort, man. And it's like, everybody needs a blanket, man. You might even need 3. It just takes off at the end there. And so I like to do that a lot of times at the end of songs. Just burst into something entirely new, like give people that aren't listening to my songs in the first place something to not listen to at the end of the song as well. So if you ever do digest any of my music, know that, man, well over half of them have a nice surprise ending. Can try to hide from it all. Can take our cushions on the couch and can sweat the greatest for man's ever seen. All we need is a blanket, or maybe we need 3, and then we'll be free. Crazy ridiculous too. And so, yeah, I love that, those stereo, those guitars, man, hit it just right. And we'll talk about, there's plenty of chatter about guitars. We're going to actually, when we get to the 8th song, 2 switches, I've got a demo for, we can talk about the guitars and separations and stuff. That's Blanket, man. Serious stuff. After that is Your Room. It's a little synth ditty. It's only a minute long, and it's all falsetto. It's like,
stand up straight.
It's just about
comb your hair.
Yeah, everyone's been a kid. It's a pretty good chance you've been barked at by an adult as a kid for various silly things, and that's what this is about. Having that happen, run away to your room, or whatever your sanctuary, your nice safe place. For me, I live in the woods now. We live outside Nashville in the woods, and right out there on the trails, etc., that we've got here, I've got lots of little sanctuary spots for sure. But that's all that is. That brings us to Cheese Grater.
Mr. Cheese Grater,
This was an easy
you're
one.
so duplicitous. Your outside shine while your inside's insidious. And
Though you're only living by design.
living by design, your method isn't clear to me. It's brutal here, the dairy weep.
You hear the dairy weep. It's brutal, dude. You know, I know you're only living by design. I get it. And you're beautiful. This is a funny song, you know. It's the Cheese Grater. From the outside, it's shiny, man. It looks cool. It's sleek. But really, it's inside, you know, where everything that's just been shaved and killed sits is insidious, right? And it's like, I'm sure you're a good guy, Cheese Grater, but you should know, man, your outsides, you know, are made of tiny knives. It's just nothing but tiny knives all over you, dude. And we don't want to die from tiny knives. That's obvious, right? And so that's Cheese Grater. It's a little silly, a little dramatic, but it's serious stuff, dude. I mean, you know, he takes it seriously.
But it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be this way. It isn't the violence, the death. It doesn't have to be this way. You're better than this, man. You got it in you, dude.
You've got heart for days.
Let's pull all the music out.
No more fingers, no more lies. Leave the sponges alone. It's not bedtime. All your sides are made of tiny little lies.
It's ridiculous, right? Ridiculous. Creating all kinds of drama about Cheese Grater. Who knows? So, Two Switches is next up on the old deck, and Two Switches is a rocker.
Down the hall there's a light, and it does a good job at doing the things that a light should do well. It excels at the task of conquering darkness and fighting the fear that the darkness can bring.
It excels at the task of conquering darkness and fighting the fear that the darkness can bring. Light bulbs, brother. So, yeah, that's where this comes from. And so we talk about the great things that the light does and is and can be, but the crux here, the problem in this situation is that sometimes there's two switches for one light, and one of them's always wrong. And so for somebody like me who's a little bit off, that's just annoying, man. Why is I'm looking at that light and the switch is off, but the switch is on, or I look at the switch and it's on and that's off. That's the same thing I just said in reverse. But you know what I'm saying. So that's Two Switches. Where else do we go?
There's one thing I take issue with, and it rocks me to my core. Light switches for the same one light, and I've got a little touch of OCD. The two switches will torture me.
So notice I've got lots of harmony vocals coming in all through that. I love harmony vocals. It adds a lot to what you're doing. Sorry, I banged the microphone. It adds a lot to what you're doing. And so I would recommend it if you always add more vocals if you can, and double vocals on chorus. If you sing them twice, though, don't copy paste the same thing. That's not doubling a vocal. Sing it twice. It's the different. What makes a doubled vocal cool is that it's not the same as the first one. It's close, but it's not the same. And so it's a good time to talk about, as we've discussed earlier, the separation between verses and chorus. And so one technique that many countless people use is in the guitar area. And if it's a rock song like this song here, wet my whistle real quick. If it's a rock song like this one, a lot of times they'll have big guitars, lots of guitars everywhere, pan guitars, stereo guitars for the chorus, really making everything drive and hit. Whereas in the verse, they might just have one guitar, maybe in a little center, off center, whatever. Not all high gainy crazy, just, playing along, backing up that vocalist doing his thing on the verse, right? The song is absolutely like that. And we go from this to my core, searching for the same one light, and I've got a little touch of OCD. So it immediately goes wide and large. And so if we kill the heavy guitars, kind of just listen to that little skinny guitar. Now, what I do with all of my mid-gain guitars is that I usually put them through a Neve EQ console model. That ain't mine. And so my mid channel here, yep, that's rings true from a year ago, it seems. I've got a Neve Pre and the Neve EQ, and we're running through an SSL console, which is interesting. But regardless, all the same, I'm not driving this console much. Nowadays, I drive that console up to about 14. That's nice. And anyways, we've also got, of course, a distressor on there in the Opto style, keeping things nice and even, and a little bit of sonic exciter, some sheen, if you will, on top. They call it shimmer. But so what we're doing in the EQ on this guitar, you can hear it with and without the EQ. Here it comes without the EQ. No EQ. Now we'll turn that EQ back on. That's what I'm talking about. Off. On. So it's right in the middle. It's really thin. What we're doing there is nothing on the top band. The top mid we're doing at 3.2. We're boosting 8.88 decibels. At 1.6 we're boosting 4.5, and at 80 we're not doing anything. Nothing on the bottom. So that's pretty much it. And you might be like, dude, harp. That sounds a little bit thin and toppy and shrill, kind of, dude. Once you it's true. It does, except when you are in the mix and listening to all three of them together, in which point it's. So I was just looking at what's going on with the two heavier tracks, and they've got a bit of EQ going on, a little bit of, we're taking off a little bit of 7.5, up a little bit high, not much though, just a tiny bit of roll, 1.9, well, almost 2 decibels, but yeah, it's not aggressive. And then up here at 3, we're boosting 1.8. We're going to cut off some, I'm sure, here. 420, we're pulling down 3.1. And then a little bit of a boost at 240, 1.7, with our bottom shelf at 68, about 70. And that's the same for both tracks. Yes, identical for both tracks. And that kind of keeps it from getting too crackly up there. But it's a good way to differentiate your verses from the choruses and make sure that everything continues to flow smooth. And it's a good example of those stereo guitars. I should also point out here, when you solo, we were talking about soloing one thing versus versus in the mix. When you solo these panned guitars, it's not going to sound that great like that, you know. But together, you know, so it's just something to keep in mind when you're checking out and soloing tracks. When you solo something that's hard panned to one side or the other, a lot of times I'll roll that back to the middle just a little bit to put something in the other speaker while I'm like tracking or something like that, because it creates an interesting sonic phenomenon when you're really hard panned all the way. So if you solo just one hard pan thing, don't freak out if it doesn't sound awesome by itself. It's in the mix that you're looking for. So that's two switches. Next up, after two switches, we get to Superfan, which would be that song on the record that was like the last one written that you just like are running out of steam. And I mean, this project really, like I said, I'm not the best all the way kind of project guy. I just shoot from the hip, man, and you know, fly loose and fast and see what happens. This I had to, you know, stick to this school-like project and get everything. Be this. So Superfan was last. I was running out of things to write about, honestly, and figure, okay, here's a fan. Maybe I could write a song about a fan. If you want the air to move around your head, you're gonna need a fan. There's a song. It's kind of a Veruca Salty kind of thing. We've played off the super fan notion about, you know, super fans, people that are super fans of things, and super fans, whatever. Little Things is next. It's cool. It's an all over the place written song. Doesn't follow song structures at all. I think it's got like kind of two rolling verses, and then it breaks off into like two rolling verses, breaks off into a jam, and then has a whole ending section. It's in the details that you find the soul. Yeah, I'm talking about. It's all about life is about the details and the little things, and don't complicate things, and try and keep it simple and blah blah blah. Meanwhile, I'm making the most complicated song on the record. So maybe that's the irony. I don't know. Oh yeah, there's that jam. I like that. So it's going to go into, you'll hear this little, what are they, the little thing bangers on it. And it'll come in here and lead us into this last part, which wraps us up. And this is about my problem. You know, I can't adhere to the tenets of the song whatsoever, and everything's gone awry, crazy, haywire, whatever. Last one is Out the Window. Out the window, we see all the birds and the trees. Everybody has windows to look out if you have a place that you're chilling in. And this one comes from my wife, actually. I had like one of the lines directly in it is from her about some red fox or squirrel. Started with a piano, just this bouncy little da-da-da-da-da-da. Started singing, and next thing you know, you got a song.
All it takes is a piece of glass to bring the outside in and to make it last. Bring the squirrels,
this
the
line.
bunnies, the one red fox.
The squirrels, the bunnies, and the one red fox. See, somebody you know, in my case, my wife, might be the contributor to your next song. You never know. And so this is a nice little song. Has a lot of little roundabouty songs or parts you'll hear. Intertwining lines. Some are going up, some are going down. I like to do that a lot in music. I think it's interesting. This follows a kind of a versey chorus thing, but not so much. It's 2 minutes long, so it's one of the longer ones.
Maybe a goat or a cow or an ox. These sunsets do make me happy.
They're good example of just like a weird thing you just stuck in between the verse and the chorus called pre-chorus. But these sunsets do make me universal concept. Maybe everybody's happy from sunsets when they see a pretty sunset. Whatever. There it was, and there it went.
Out the window we see all the birds and the trees. It's where rivers and dreams dance with mountains. And if we close both our eyes and we look deep inside, we see anything right past the window.
Here comes the orchestra section.
Out the window we see all the birds.
Then we have vocals going on over here and here, bouncing all around. So totally get crazy, man. And when there's a spot in a song, when you can have fun, man. Songwriting is like fun. That sections like that are, to me, are just nothing but fun. You got all these lines dancing and playing together. That's just awesome. And so that's going to wrap up this conversation about the songwriting as it pertained to the record This House by me, Andy Harper, which you may find on all of your normal digital outlets, Amazon, iTunes, Bandcamp, etc. Go get you some. You can have a listen to it right here on this YouTube channel if you want. Like I said before, songwriting is one of my most favorite pastimes. It could be one of yours if it's not already. So we've talked about a lot of stuff here today as we talked about songwriting. So what maybe should you take away? Or would you take away? What would I take away from this little chat? I would say first and foremost, have fun. With songwriting, can be one of the most fun things in the world. So if it's not bringing you some immediate joy, put it down and come back to it later, or don't. A lot of times, just start doing it. These creative gears that we have, often get locked up and tired and sticky and whatever you want to say, but a lot of times just start moving them. Once you get them moving and know what to do, they'll take over. And just put one note in front of the other, and just put one foot in front of the other. Same thing. Charge ahead, and you never know what's going to come out. For all of the stuff that I've created, which is like there's probably 5 or 6 records that are out there as records, and then hundreds of songs that exist, and for all of them that have made it to the internet like that, and posted somewhere, there's probably 10 behind that didn't, and so point being, you fail way more than you succeed, but all of them are kind of fun in their own ways, because it's like a super cool drug, this songwriting and creating music. It just feels so good when it hits right, especially. So that's a pretty good, I think, takeaway right there. Have fun. And don't be stopped. Like if you're blocked or whatever, try something different. But try and keep moving. As long as those gears are moving, they'll take over at some point, and off you'll go. Believe me, I've been doing this a long time, and I've had a lot of blocked moments, and it always comes out. Next in line, you got all the structure stuff. If you want to find out about the perfect structures of writing songs, look it up. It's all out there, I'm sure. As you can see through this album, sometimes I stick to it, sometimes I don't. Dynamics, I think, are most important. Changes, going from one thing to another thing, giving users or listeners interesting things to listen to and to occupy their minds with as they move through a song. I think that's important. And past that, I don't know. Like I've said before, I'm just a dude. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I got a lot of this stuff out there. And while it's not consumed very much, those who do consume it do seem to like it. So I don't know, man. You be the judge. But that's a little bit of a look at songwriting. And check out my other videos. This series, How to Make a Record. We're in part 2 right now. The other ones will be coming out soon enough. Subscribe. You won't miss anything. I've also got several teenage Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles videos coming out of work that I've done on the episodes this year in 2019 for that stuff. So if you don't want to miss that, hit the old subscribe button there, and you won't. And those will be cool. I talk all about how how I get the video segments in that need music from me on them, and how I go about writing said music and producing that music for that animated Nickelodeon series. So y'all have a fantastic rest of your day, or start to evening, or whatever. I don't know. Catch you on the next one. Later.